Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome on Try Something Vegetarian. I'm Ulrich Hoffman. Today is the 1st of July 2019, and this is the broadcast. Iran breaches uranium enrichment 300 kilogram limit, start of World War III. 1200 kilogram needed to build one nuke. So of course World War III must be prevented, mutually assured destruction must be prevented, and if Trump has that agreement with Putin, then that's easily preventable. And also avoid mutually assured destruction. Putin may have these nuclear torpedoes, and of course scalar weapons. There are 15 scalar weapon countries, so it's possible none without a Tesla plasma shield would survive, and that the Earth would spin off axis. The Earth is already wobbling. What was the other reason? Let's first turn this thing off. Sorry about the annoying mowing thing. Wasn't there before. So an agreement with Putin and punishment proportionate with their supposed crime. And right now they cannot prove that Iran is in violation of the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, and Trump did away with the nuclear agreement. So let's first read this text while the sawing machine is on.
In comments published on Khomeini's official website on June 10, he said, "Now imagine the most cruel person of our time, the child murderer prime minister of the Zionist regime, goes to Europe and plays innocent, saying Iran wants to destroy them," adding, "The European addressee listens and shakes his head, without mentioning their crimes in Gaza and Quds." In.radioferda.com June 11, 2018. Iran is still an NPT signatory country, sovereign state and UN member country. If Iranian leaders allow inspections and are in compliance with the NPT, sanctions are unjustified or groundless, as Putin put it. Is it possible that what Iranian leaders and officials claim, that Iran is not producing nuclear weapons, is true? Then all the sanctions would be paranoid, schizophrenic in nature, possibly to create a third temporal world war. The threats against Israel and the US were uttered after the use of depleted uranium in Iraq by American soldiers, after Netanyahu and Bush lied that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons. Any attack on Israel or the US by Iran would mean the end of Iran and possibly mutually assured destruction if Putin would agree with the attack of Iranian leaders, which is doubtful. It is crucial to take steps and implement measures and make agreements between leaders now to prevent escalation into a third world war. Do stuff to create universal peace. The use of depleted uranium in munitions is controversial because of concerns about potential long-term health effects. Normal functioning of the kidney, brain, liver, heart, and numerous other systems can be affected by exposure to uranium, a toxic metal. It is only weakly radioactive because of its long radioactive half-life, 4.468 billion years for uranium-238, 700 million years for uranium-235. The case for an immediate ban on the military use of depleted uranium NL United States, expert, depleted uranium use is a war crime. Greenleft.org.o, Game of Fair, Tom Cruise missiles, defense, the groupies, the bands, the Iranians, BB-Lan, where everyone has a BB gun, the beginning of days. With Israeli haze, right? Yes. Russian documents reveal desire to sow racial discord and violence. In the US, the revelations come as US intelligence agencies have warned of probable Russian meddling in the 2020 election. NukeNews.com May 21, 2019. Europe plans no immediate sanctions if Iran breaches nuclear deal. President Trump warned of unspecified retaliation if Iran makes good on its threat to enrich more uranium than allowed under the 2015 nuclear deal. WallStreetJournal.com June 29, 2019. Iran says EU has not done enough to help it avoid U.S. sanctions. 37,086 views. Al Jazeera English published on June 29, 2019. Watch. Surpassing uranium enrichment limit. Start of WW3? Rooney agrees with death to America. Stalin Jew? On Try Something.Vegetarian YouTube, Iran breaches uranium enrichment 300 kg limit. Start of WW3? 1200 kg needed to build one nuke.
So yeah, what I'm gonna do is cover the article. I think it's independent or something. There it is. Iran breaches uranium enrichment limit, hinting at Trump's failing brinkmanship strategy. I think there are some interesting facts in this article. This takes 29 seconds, the video with it. Is that working? We'll see. Sorry about that. So let's see if we can start it after the commercial. Perhaps we can take down that volume a little bit. Is it the same thing?
Iran, if war does break out. You have an exit strategy for Iran if war does break out.
You're not going to need an exit strategy.
Trump needs an exit strategy. So that means he either plans for these soldiers to stay there forever or to die there without an exit strategy.
Strategy for Iran if war does break out. Do you have an exit strategy for Iran if war does break out?
You're not going to need an exit strategy. I don't need exit strategies.
Well, isn't that weird? Doesn't he plan for the soldiers to come home after a while? What's going on here?
I'm going to create a third world war to build a temple in Jerusalem for my judge and to reduce the global population to 500 million. Everyone must die for my global government. I will be the last president.
Iran breaches uranium enrichment limit, hinting at Trump's failing brinkmanship strategy in year since U.S. left nuclear deal. Iran has ramped up atomic program, bolstered militias and continued its missile pursuit. Iran on Monday increased its stockpile of reactor-grade uranium beyond the limits permitted under the 2015 nuclear deal, challenging the United States' maximum pressure campaign against Tehran and testing European resolve in upholding the landmark agreement. Iran's Fars news agency reported that the country's stockpile of 3.67% enriched uranium has exceeded the 300 kilograms limit imposed under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Based on what I have been told, Iran has exceeded the 300 kilograms limit. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif was quoted as saying by the ISNA news agency, "We deem it as part of our rights under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA." The announcement had been expected for 2 weeks. It comes days after world powers announced the launch of INSTEX, a financial mechanism for doing trade with Iran by circumventing harsh U.S. sanctions meant to draw the country back to reopen negotiations. The uranium stockpile breach, a moderate violation of the agreement which can easily be scaled back, will challenge European commitment to the deal, but it is unlikely to cause them to leave the agreement. Iran would need at least 1,200 kilograms of reactor-grade uranium, further refined, to build a single nuclear bomb. Tensions high as Trump approves new Iran sanctions, in picture show all 17. At the moment it's a game, Ephraim Eskulai, a former Israeli nuclear official, told The Independent. Iran is being really careful by not exceeding the limits of the deal. If Iran goes 10% more over the limit, no one will start a war. But Iran's breach also adds to mounting questions about whether the U.S. strategy is advancing its stated goals of getting Iran to roll back its nuclear program, curtail its armed proxies, and rein in its missile development. Iran also appears no closer to coming to the negotiation table. Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei last week ruled out talks with the United States, potentially forever. In addition, what few channels of diplomacy there were with Iran on key issues have been squelched. Western officials have told The Independent that removal of waivers on U.S.-imposed energy sanctions late last year snuffed out quiet ongoing talks led by French diplomats and the European Union over the Iranian missile program and its support for armed groups throughout the Middle East. Read more. Iran suggests nuclear talks won't be enough to stop uranium enrichment. May in last-ditch plea for peaceful resolution to Iran nuclear crisis. Trump says he has no exit strategy if U.S. goes to war with Iran. Iran hits out at retarded U.S. sanctions as Trump mocks rape accuser. Trump threatens ignorant and insulting Iran with obliteration. Jeremy Hunt says UK will not join U.S. in war against Iran. They were halted in December, a Western diplomat involved in the talks said. We asked them to resume, but we have no answer. They were ended by the removal of waivers, and the fact that since they got nothing from the JCPOA, they couldn't rationally engage in another limiting negotiation. The launch of INSTEX last week, a mechanism endorsed by the UK, France, Germany, as well as China and Russia, suggested U.S. diplomatic isolation. When pressed by journalists about what the maximum pressure campaign has achieved, U.S. officials cite reports that Iran's proxies in Lebanon and elsewhere have less money as evidence that the Trump administration policy is working. No power in the world that was a signatory to the JCPOA is taking a stand against in the U.S. Cameron Bakhari, former U.S. diplomat and founder of the Center for Global Policy. Iran's economy is in recession. And we have put in place a policy of zero imports for Iranian crude oil, said Brian Hook, the State Department's point person on Iran. Our oil sanctions will deny the regime $50 billion in revenue, that is 40% of its annual budget, and we are closing the doors to Iran sanctions evasion to cover these losses. But officials can point to few shifts in Iranian policy. More than a year after the withdrawal, Iran's nuclear program has been ramped up, with the breach of the JCPOA, and threats by the regime in Tehran to increase enrichment to 20% and reopen the dormant heavy water reactor at Arak. Despite the paucity of cash, Iranian-backed militias continue to.
So threats is the wrong term. If they are allowed to enrich uranium under the NPT, and they enrich it to a higher level for other purposes, medical purposes, etc., and that's just checked, they have inspections, etc., and they check what they use it for, and they are not building a nuclear weapon because they're an NPT signatory country, and Khamenei declared a fatwa on nukes. And Putin Vladimir Putin made it also clear that sanctions are unjustified. One more time. Let's see if I can find it fast. Watch on YouTube. Putin, Tehran in full compliance with its nuclear commitments, sanctions against Iran groundless. So that's another video you can watch on my channel. It's from a Reuters article, so he said that according to Reuters.com.
Hold territory in Syria, where they and their allies have all but won an 8 war against rebels, and Iraq, where they are an integral part of the security and political architecture. Iranian-aligned Houthi rebels in Yemen are launching more audacious attacks on Saudi Arabia using better weapons, and Iran itself allegedly was behind attacks on Arabian Peninsula oil tankers, as well as the downing of a $130 million U.S. drone. So far there is much more continuity than change in Iranian policy, said Ali Fadlanejad, an Iran expert at Brookings Doha Center. One could not say the maximum pressure has been successful in achieving its goals. Iranians will likely continue to do what they're doing, even for the next year. Still, scholars and diplomats say.
So in relation to that drone attack on the Cancer oil tankers, people can watch False Flag Oil Tanker Drone Attack on Front Altair and Kokuka Courageous Attempt to Start World War III? So can anybody disprove to me that these Cancer oil tankers were attacked with drones, with projectiles that were witnessed by an eyewitness, observed by an eyewitness, and is it clear that on both ships the holes in the ship were above the waterline, so they didn't touch the hull at all?
The maximum pressure campaign has been more successful than anticipated in hurting Iran's economy, and putting pressure on the state, possibly to reopen negotiations with the Trump administration in the coming months. If Iran goes 10% more over the limit, no one will start a war. Ephraim Eskeili, former Israeli nuclear official. They point to Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif's lengthy April visit to the United States as an attempt to explore the possibility of dialogue. Meeting scholars and journalists inside the Iranian mission and the United Nations, Mr. Zarif voiced frustration at the unwillingness of Europeans to defy the U.S. by coming up with effective measures to counter sanctions, which have halted Iranian oil sales, the mainstay of its economy. No power in the world that was a signatory to the JCPOA is taking a stand against in the U.S., said Cameron Bakhari, a former U.S. diplomat and founder of the Center for Global Policy, a Washington think tank. Europeans are not taking a stand. Russia is not making a huge issue, neither are the Chinese. There is much more continuity than change in Iranian policy. Ali Fadlanejad, Brookings Doha Center. Eventually, he predicted, Iran would have to come to the negotiating table, and it may be ramping up its nuclear program and regional activities to gain leverage in any talks. The bottom line is that ultimately Iran cannot continue ad infinitum, he said, citing its embrace of talks with President Barack Obama following his campaign of crippling sanctions. But Iran could also seek to wait Trump out, shielding itself from unrest caused by the economic hardship by increasing repression. Protests over economic worries that erupted in late 2017 have all but died down. At the state level there's been a lot of pressure felt, but they've been able to externalize the costs onto society, said Mr. Fadlanejad. Almost all the Democratic Party contenders for president have vowed to recommit the U.S. to the nuclear deal, arguing that the Trump team has accomplished little. Donald Trump told us when he got out of it that he was going to give us a better deal, Amy Klobuchar, a Minnesota senator, said during a debate last week. And now we are, days, away from the Iranians who claim now that they're going to blow the caps on enriching uranium. He has made us less safe than we were when he became president. More about Iranian nuclear deal. JCPOA News. Billy Bragg says he's heartbroken for fans of the Smiths transfer. Zidane didn't speak to Bale after match-winning performance. Asia women have heads shaved by mob of men because they resisted rape. Asia pilot dumps fuel in fiery explosion after flying into flock of birds. Casio G-Shock DW 5600 Ma1 Near 83,92, Merloj.
So, World War idea, still insane idea. And this is my wonderful new pipe. Really nice road town pipes on eBay. I also have a nice Dublin. These were the pipes I was unpacking in my previous broadcast. And a poker. You can put this on your desk easily, basically. And a smaller, these are all briar wood pipes. Small bulldog type and Papafum in Piep, bigger bowl, really nice grain and polished. It's really smooth, really nice craftsmanship. So, what else do we find online? PopularMechanics.com. All the nuclear missile submarines in the world in one chart. Only 7 countries in the entire world deploy nuclear weapons at sea. An exclusive and deadly club. I'm gonna save this picture. Oh, it's already in the right directory, alright. World's ballistic missile submarines. US, Russia, China, Great Britain, France, India. I've got this flag. Korea, perhaps. (2018) June 1st. Okay, horrible. Well, people can read this on PopularMechanics.com. So I'm not gonna read this whole article. How to dismantle a nuclear missile, that's better. Okay, you can read this. So what percentage of the nukes would get through the missile defense systems, including the scalar weapons, Tesla plasma shield, and the TAD, and Iron Dome, etc. Ground to air missiles, missile defense systems. Would none of them get through, and would it be a scalar world war? Can it be avoided, and what's the best way to do that then?
How to dismantle a nuclear missile. It's a long and complex process, but it is doable. Image by Kyle Mizukami, April 10, 2019. Nuclear missile inside Lomickel Dunning-Getty Images. A new video shows the intricate process involved in deactivating a nuclear-tipped missile. The video by the Outrider Foundation explains step-by-step how to break down a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile, from disassembling and disposing of the rocket side to the nuclear weapon payload itself.
Nuclear weapons have been in the news a lot lately, and it's freaking us out that one man has his finger on the button. But nuclear disarmament is possible. We can take them apart. Want to see how? This is a nuclear weapon, a Minuteman III ICBM. First, separate the missile into 9 key parts. Take the re-entry system off and set it aside. Isolate the 3 motor stages and dispose of all the fuel by burning it. Now that the motors are just hollow tubes, you can cut them up. Next, we have the warhead steering system and the inner stage connectors. Remove some small explosives from inside. Burn them, but ship the ashes to a safe disposal site. Let's bring the guidance system and skirt back. All of these get destroyed with a bulldozer. Now let's get back to the re-entry system. This is the part where the bomb is actually defused. Let's remove the shroud and crush it. Disconnect the warhead from the deployment module. Destroy it. Now, a closer look at the warhead. Inside the warhead is the primary and secondary. The primary contains explosives and the plutonium pit. The explosives are removed and burned. This is the plutonium pit. It triggers the explosion of the secondary. It can't be destroyed, but it's hard to use if you change the shape. And now, the secondary. This is the part of the bomb that releases massive amounts of energy. It gets shipped on a truck to Y-12 Nuclear Complex in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Inside the secondary, we have highly enriched uranium, fusion fuel, and more highly enriched uranium. The fusion fuel gets decomposed by ethanol and then diluted with lots of water. The highly enriched uranium
It fits in nicely with my consumption of green tea.
gets mixed with lower grade uranium so that it's no longer usable in a bomb. And that's how you dismantle a nuclear weapon. So now you know, we can do this.
The US and Russia have about an equal amount of nuclear weapons ready to launch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One man can launch them at any time without your consent, but we can change that. Learn how at outrider.org. So yeah, I think we're talking about sabotaging nukes of enemies or whatever. I guess these spies and others, some people might be doing that to save humanity from madmen that want to create World War III for whatever reason, to impose their satanic Luciferian global society, global government, New World Order, that type of idea. Then they would have to take out that warhead or fry the circuits with the scalar technology, so they will never reach their targets. And some of them will possibly go off in the silos, and then that would still contaminate the world anyhow, like nuclear meltdowns. And if nukes would get through, then you get meltdowns of all these nuclear power plants as well. And it's best to be prepared for these things to the extent that we can be prepared. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best, or go for the best, I say. So radiological water filter and storable food is a good idea. And I gotta get some sunshine. But thanks for making that video, very nicely made. So they can switch to cobalt thorium G. Thorium video covered in my previous broadcast. And then they can, that's a lot safer, but they can't make nuclear weapons. That's why they didn't use cobalt thorium G, but they're using uranium. And at least after the World War they should switch to, what was it, thorium, some call it cobalt thorium G or whatever. We were still reading something.
Introduced in the early 1970s, the Minuteman III forms the land-based component of the United States nuclear triad. Nukes launches from the air and the sea for the other two legs. 400 Minuteman IIs are based in hardened concrete silos across the western states, manned by Air Force launch crews. The Minuteman III's exact payload is a secret but believed to be a single Mk 21 re-entry vehicles with a single 300 to 475 kiloton thermonuclear warhead. The missile disposal system is pretty straightforward, with the rocket fuel and the motor stages requiring the most work. The warhead is the most delicate part of disposal, of course, thanks to the presence of plutonium and highly enriched uranium. Although the warhead uses a considerable amount of high explosive to initiate the chain reaction in the fission primary stage, those explosives are insensitive, meaning they're hard to set off accidentally. For more on how thermonuclear weapons work, see here. One day, all Minuteman III missiles will be dismantled in the manner depicted in this video. The Air Force's ground-based strategic deterrent aims to replace the Minuteman III with a new, unnamed missile. Although there are proposals to refurbish the existing missiles and camp them on duty, unlike the warheads in this video, however, the Minuteman III warheads that make up the current American arsenal probably will be recycled in some form for their eventual replacements, particularly the plutonium pits.
The plutonium pits stop. Go green. So how to dismantle a nuclear bomb is a video of Outrider Foundation, published April 8th, 2019, hopefully on time. To prevent the end, prevent mutually assured destruction, etc. The Shahab 3. I got one in the back of my Saab.
The Shahab 3, Persian, Shahab 3, meaning meteor, is a medium-range ballistic missile, MRBM, developed by Iran and based on the North Korean Nang-1. 910, the Shahab 3 has a range of 1,000 kilometers, 620 miles. A MRBM variant can now reach 2,000 kilometers, 1,200 miles, can hit targets as far as Israel, Egypt.
I still have to get that Saab, so donations are welcome via universalpeace.jimdo.com. And at the bottom of the page you can see the Cancer Scalar orb flying next to the Concorde and pyramid-shaped UFO charging itself with lightning. Pretty cool.
Romania, Bulgaria and Greece. 11. It was tested from 1998 to 2003 and added to the military arsenal on July 7, 2003, with an official unveiling by Ayatollah Khomeini on July 20. With an accuracy of 2,500 meters (sep), the Shahab-3 missile is primarily effective against large, soft targets, like cities. Given the Shahab-3's payload capacity, it would likely be capable of delivering nuclear warheads. According to the IAEA, Iran in the early 2000s may have explored various fusing, arming and firing systems to make the Shahab-3 more capable of reliably delivering a nuclear warhead. 12. The forerunners to this missile include the Shahab-1 and Shahab-2. The then Iranian Defense Minister Admiral Shamkhani has denied that Iran plans to develop a Shahab-4. Some successors to the Shahab have longer range and are also more maneuverable. 13, 14, 15. Operating under the Sanam Industrial Group, Department 140, which is part of the Defense Industries Organization of Iran, the Shahid Hamad Industrial Group, SHIG, led the development of the Shahab missile. 16. U.S. Air Force National Air and Space Intelligence Center estimates that as of June 2017 less than 50 launchers were operationally deployed. 17.
So the pictures that I showed were from Great Satan's Girlfriend.blogspot.com, and the other one is globalsecurity.org. So let's read this.
The Iranian Shahab-3 ballistic missile means Meteor 3 or Shooting Star 3 in Farsi, alternatively designated Cells, earthquake, is derived from the 1,351,600 km range North Korean Nodong missile. The Shahab-3 reportedly has a range of between 1,350 and 1,600 km and is capable of carrying a 1,766,650 kg warhead. Through spring 2010 there was an estimated 300 Shahab-3s of various types deployed in Iran. Iran nuclear deal, enriched uranium limit breached. IAEA confirms BBC News 1 hour ago Iran has breached the limit on its stockpile of enriched uranium set under a 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, the global watchdog has. Iran nuclear deal, why does the enriched uranium stockpile matter? BBC News 3 hours ago Iran breaks limit on enriched uranium stockpile. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty 2 hours ago Iran breaks nuclear deal. Uranium enrichment stockpile exceeds limits. Express.co.uk 2 hours ago Iran breaches uranium enrichment limit, hinting at Trump's failing. In-depth The Independent 1 hour ago Iran breaches critical limit on nuclear fuel under 2015 deal. In-depth The New York Times 4 hours ago View all. Iran nuclear deal, enriched uranium limit breached, IAEA confirms 2 hours ago.
So if the Independent is correct, then the 300 kilogram limit is only 1/4 of what is required to produce one nuclear weapon. One nuke basically requires 1,200 kilograms, so they need 4 times more than they have now. So they can't even build one nuke yet.
Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant can use low-enriched uranium as fuel. Iran has breached the limit on its stockpile of enriched uranium set under a 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, the global watchdog has confirmed. The International Atomic Energy Agency said its inspectors had verified the 300 kilograms, 660 pounds, cap had been exceeded. Iran stepped up production of enriched uranium, which is used to make reactor fuel and potentially nuclear weapons, in response to reinstated U.S. sanctions. European nations have warned that any violation will bring consequences. The deal allows for the reimposition of multilateral sanctions that were lifted in return for Iran limiting its nuclear activities. What has Iran said? Based on what I have been told, Iran has exceeded the 300 kilograms limit in accordance with its plan. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif was quoted by ISNA news agency as telling reporters,
I like the colors on this. A nice smoky brown. Cream. Mocha. Very nice. Though of course I am against nuclear energy and for using sea energy and telluric power, also called geothermal energy. But the Americans also do it, so then it's okay.
In Tehran on Monday afternoon, we have clearly said what we will do and we will act accordingly. We deem it as part of our rights under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, he added, referring to the official name of the nuclear deal. An IAEA spokesperson later told the BBC, we can confirm that IAEA Director General Yuki Amano has informed the Board of Governors that the agency verified on 1 July that Iran's total enriched uranium stockpile exceeded 300 kilograms of UF6, uranium hexafluoride, enriched up to 3.67% U-235, or the equivalent in different chemical forms. Why does the enriched uranium stockpile matter? Iran nuclear crisis in 300 words. The nuclear fuel cycle. The Iranian Foreign Ministry's spokesman meanwhile warned that Iran still planned to suspend other commitments under the deal in 10 days unless European powers took practical and tangible steps to implement their new mechanism for facilitating trade and shield the Iranian economy from the effects of the U.S. sanctions. The mechanism, known as INSTEX, essentially allows goods to be bartered between Iranian and foreign companies without direct financial transactions. It became operational on Saturday, but Mr. Zarif said it did not meet Iran's needs. The development comes at a time of high tension in the Middle East, with Iran shooting down a U.S. drone over the Strait of Hormuz in disputed circumstances, and the U.S. accusing Iran of being behind 2 sets of attacks on oil tankers. Iran is seeking to breach the nuclear agreement's terms in a step-by-step fashion to bring pressure on the Europeans to help it to resist the crushing pressure of U.S. economic sanctions. But few experts believe the Europeans will be able to do this. Iran's move will prompt a crescendo of protest from its more strident critics. Others may be more circumspect, waiting for the IAEA to verify the breach. Most important is what Iran does next. It has threatened to increase its level of uranium enrichment to up to 20% from Sunday. This would enable it to get some 90% of the way towards having material suitable for a bomb, and that really will set diplomatic alarm bells ringing. What is enriched uranium? Enriched uranium is produced by feeding uranium hexafluoride gas into centrifuges to separate out the most suitable isotope for nuclear fission, called U-235. Image copyright Getty Images. Image caption. Prior to enrichment, uranium ore concentrate must be converted into uranium hexafluoride under the nuclear deal. Iran is only permitted to produce low enriched uranium, which has a 3 to 4% concentration of U-235, and can be used to produce fuel for nuclear power plants. Weapons-grade uranium is 90% enriched or more. The deal also restricted Iran to stockpiling no more than 300 kilograms, 660 pounds, of the low-enriched uranium. A stockpile of 1,050 kilograms, however, could be further enriched later into enough material to build one bomb, according to the Arms Control Association. Iran strongly denies any intention to build nuclear weapons. Why has Iran
So they talk of U-235. Oh, so that's U-2 basically as well, the spy plane. Anyway, uranium-238, used in depleted uranium, has a half-life of about 4.5 billion years, and uranium-235, 700 million years. So that's the time it would take before it emits half the amount of radiation, nuclear contamination, that it does when it's first detonated.
breached the stockpile limit? The Iranian economy has slumped since the U.S. withdrew from the nuclear deal in May 2018 and began reinstating sanctions targeting its oil and banking sectors. Mr. Trump said the deal was flawed and that he wanted to force Iran's government to renegotiate the terms, something it refused to do. Iran nuclear deal. All you need to know: how reinstated sanctions have hit Iranians in May, after the U.S. ended exemptions from penalties for countries still importing Iranian oil, and those exchanging surplus Iranian low-enriched uranium for ore concentrate. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani announced that it would no longer comply with the 300 kilograms enriched uranium cap. Image copyrighted by Image caption. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says world powers have failed to abide by their commitments. Mr. Rouhani also gave the 5 countries still party to the deal, the UK, France, Germany, China and Russia, until 7 July to meet their commitment to shield Iran from the sanctions' effects. If they failed, he said, Iran might start enriching uranium beyond 3.67% concentration, and also halt the redesign of a heavy-water nuclear reactor at Arak. Why does this matter? The nuclear deal is likely to collapse if Iran is found to be in material breach as a result of it violating the stockpile limit or other restrictions on uranium enrichment. After 30 days, any of the other parties would be able to snap back the UN sanctions lifted under Security Council Resolution 2231, which endorsed the deal. Such a step cannot be vetoed. Iran's threat to enrich uranium beyond 3.67% is also a major concern from a proliferation standpoint. Iran insists its nuclear program is peaceful, but experts say 20% enriched uranium is most of the way to weapons-grade uranium. That is because going from uranium's natural state of 0.7% concentration of U-235 to 20% takes approximately 90% of the total effort required to get to weapons grade. The Arak reactor is also a proliferation risk because if it is not redesigned, it will produce spent fuel containing plutonium, which could be used for a nuclear bomb. BBC.com.
Well, that's it for now. I hope I can still get some sunshine. Well, that's something new that I'm running into now. That's thing at the bottom of the article. After 30 days, any of the other parties would be able to, quote, snap back, unquote, the UN sanctions lifted under Security Council Resolution 2231, which endorsed the deal. Such a step cannot be vetoed. Don't know what it encompasses. And I advised to wait until the 7th of July. I thought they were going to do that. But they probably have plans already. So if they're not in violation of the NPT, you could argue Iran should not be sanctioned, and they are illegal sanctions if they allow inspections. And Trump stepped out of the JCPOA nuclear agreement, and it's planned for July 7th, I think. More about this in my previous broadcasts. I can Google it again. July 7th. Iran set to do away with key elements of nuclear deal next week. Bloomberg 8 hours ago. Iran hopes Europe will take practical measures by July 7th. IMA IR 3 hours ago. On July 7th, Iran will take second step to reduce their power commitments. Short article, I like that. Alright, let's read this Islamic Republic News Agency article of today, Monday, the 1st of July 2019.
Iran hopes Europe will take practical measures by July 7th. Iran hopes Europe will take practical measures by July 7th. Tehran, July 1st, IRNA. Iran says that it hopes Europe will take practical and tangible measures to put into practice a financial channel, known as INSTEX, before a July 7th deadline, noting that otherwise the country will suspend further nuclear commitments. Based on the reports, the EU financial mechanism is not what the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Iranian people expected, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Abbas Mousavi told reporters on Monday. On May 8, exactly 1 year after the US withdrew from a 2015 multilateral nuclear deal with Iran, Tehran suspended some of its commitments under the deal, saying the country will take the second step and consider further suspension of its commitments in case the other parties to the deal fail to fulfill their undertakings after 60 days. Mousavi said that if Europe does not take a significant measure by July 7, Iran will take the second step. Asked what would be Iran's second step if the Europeans fail to put INSTEX into practice, the Iranian spokesman said, "The second step has been announced to them, part of which is about enrichment, that we will announce the percentage and the level of which soon." Mousavi said that the Europeans are making some efforts. However, he noted that their measures should meet Iran's demands. If the Europeans take more practical, more tangible and more convincing steps, Iran's reduction of commitments will be definitely retrievable, he said.
So, I think it's just a matter of allowing inspections so they can check it's not used to build a nuclear weapon. Then Iran is still in compliance with the NPT, Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. But I find it weird that they can wait another 7 days basically to avoid World War III. Anyway, instrument in support of trade exchanges. The Instrument in Support of Trade Exchanges is a special purpose vehicle established in January 2019 by France, Germany and the United Kingdom to facilitate non-dollar trade with Iran. Founder France, founded January 31, 2019. Headquarters Paris, France, type of business Société par Action Simplifiée. Owners France, Germany, UK. EU mechanism for trade with Iran now operational, Deutsche Welle 2 days ago. Now operational between quotation marks. EU says Instex operational, Financial Tribune. And Al Jazeera writes Instex doubts linger over Europe's Iran sanctions workaround. So, an agreement with Putin before taking any action against Iran. And hopefully Iran doesn't attack any US troops. And hopefully there is no false flag attack like we saw the possible false flag attack with a drone on these 2 cancer oil tankers. Hopefully that's all prevented. So, if you have better ideas to prevent World War III, please let us know in the comments and Skype me, Prologic999 on Skype. Please share this important video on your timeline for solidarity with Iran and for universal peace, of course. Prevent the insanity, prevent World War III, and do stuff for universal peace. That's the idea. So yeah, thank you all for your likes and subscribes, and check my other broadcasts that may have more important information crucial for your survival. And tune in next time on Try Something.Vegetarian.